Australia can learn a lot from Paris. As our population grows, the roads in our cities are getting more and more clogged. In the lead up to the Olympic Games in 2024, Paris is prioritising micro-mobility vehicles and it's reducing parking spaces. The result? A cleaner and highly efficient landscape for parcel and other delivery services. For more, Ross Greenwood spoke with Lucas Groeneveld, the General Manager of Retail and Grocery at Uber Australia from Paris.
So on a global basis, for Uber, what we see today is 51% of our gross bookings actually come from delivery. And so the delivery business is bigger than mobility. And then when you zoom into Australia, what we've seen in Australia is e-commerce has certainly been on a boom. And so in 2020, Australians spent $50 billion online. That was a 60% year-on-year growth, and that's continued to grow into 21 and certainly the early part of 22 as well. And so big consumer demand for both for e-commerce, but also for on-demand retail.
So can you just explain, what are the constraints that are holding the sector back?
So there are really two things. One is retailer readiness, but what we saw over COVID is that retailers have really invested in their e-commerce channels and also their store fulfillment capability. But now what we're facing is an infrastructure constraint. And so as delivery continues to grow, what we'll see is that cities will buckle under that pressure. If we keep responding to it with more cars and vans and trucks on the road, cities won't be a very nice place to live. And so we think the answer there is actually micromobility. Think bicycles, e-scooters, cargo bikes, greener solutions, and solutions that really fit into a city rather than the other way around. And so we believe that that's the future for delivery.
So how could more efficient delivery systems just improve our cities and also our economies?
Yeah, so what we know about delivery is most of the cost comes from the last mile. So 50% of a delivery cost comes from that last mile leg of the delivery. And then when we look at micromobility as an option, well, that's a cheaper way of doing it. And not only that, it's also greener and better for cities. And so we believe that's ultimately the future for last mile.
So if you had a message to the state governments across Australia, what would that be?
So look, the reason we're here in Paris to release this report is because Paris is a fantastic example of a city that's embraced micromobility. There are hundreds of kilometres of dedicated bike lanes and micromobility lanes. There are dedicated pick-up and drop-off zones. And in fact, the Parisian capital's just announced that they're going to be banning vehicles coming through the city in the next 2 years. And so they're making big investments in tooling the city for that mode change from moving from vans to bikes. And we believe that sort of policy reform, that sort of investment is what Australian cities need to do to future-proof our cities for what is the future of delivery.
So what's going to improve the delivery services sector right across Australia? What needs to change?
Yeah, look, I think it's about long-term policy reform. There's no point in one-off initiatives. What we need to do is we need to make sure that micromobility can coexist in cities. And so that means that there's safety, so there's dedicated infrastructure, there's education campaigns to support safe cycling. It means that pick-up and drop-off zones are designated and easy to use. And all of that's backed up by a long-term plan and investment. And so both government and industry have a big role to play here, but it is a future that, as we see from Paris, is a very real one that we can achieve.
Lucas Groeneveld, many thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Ross.